It's election night in 2020, and while it's certainly very hard for me to believe that anybody voted for Donald Trump, the election is clearly, early results show that it's going to be a steeplechase. It's really careful to qualify all of its predictions at this point. Nobody knows who's going to be the next president. But what I wanted to discuss, I think, some things about my character as well as my deafness that I feel should be represented. Where people who are capable of doing this sort of listening and research will be able to find it. Because the circumstances are very strange. First, my obligation of all times is to get the truth as far as to the best of my ability to determine what it is. That includes the truth about the rights and wrongs of the social contract and the society in which I live, concerns about undue pressure groups, criminals, and the meaning of certain kinds of communications that come my way and the discovery of certain kinds of evidence that I have found. One of the things about the deaf condition that needs to be understood is that even when it's clear to the administration of the deaf the right and wrongs of a topic, they foster such dependency. Even Gallaudet University for the Deaf, founded by Abraham Lincoln, foster such dependencies for the deaf because of the deaf colonial condition as a colonized people and what little they have in terms of civil rights activism and struggle. They foster such a condition of dependency that even when they know the right and wrong of a situation, they tend to bow their heads and say yes, sir, to power. So they want to play up that they too are the good and can be trusted. So when there's a borderline person like me whose primary friction in the state of Pennsylvania is something that the Western Pennsylvania School for the Deaf said without hesitation, a little sadly, that they had seen before, which was a crying fit by a deaf boy who has been abandoned and broken up with. So this sort of thing is known to them. The weird elliptics that this was taken into by the Washington, D.C. power sector and rock stars is something they have never seen before. But if you went to them and said, do you understand where this person is coming from? They'd say, of course, he's heartbroken. He was deaf. He was broken up with. But that's not how they went about it. They went about it in such a way that Governor Rich leaned on them and browbeat them. This is something very serious that's going on because of his position as the son of Ryland Crary that concerns Reagan, Bush, and Donald Trump and so on. Now, the Trump issue in this, they use the number 12 in the state of Washington, which means that it's a licensed legal agency. The federal government allowed Donald Trump to run a war game on Pennsylvania Klan sensibilities. He got a girl who was overdeveloped, ready to go and experienced to seduce me. But she was a teeny bit younger than me. I had crossed into 13 years old. And this gives them the trump in the AIDS abomination. And this is the area where the Western Pennsylvania School for the Deaf completely backed off. They could see that it was ridiculous that a breakup letter would be construed as anything but cause for crying, when that's all there was any evidence of. They didn't go into this Saturday Night Live fever thing that WQED put on with people who had tortured me, pedophiles, full-grown men who had brutally tortured me, hiring girls to have sex with me under camera so they could justify the abomination by saying that we're selectively plucking this and plucking that out because they are unacceptable. Okay. Now, a nurse who saw me very recently on Zoom smiled when I mentioned that Jeannie had been raped for helping me and teaching me sign language, a deaf girl. And this reinforced my belief that Microsoft and Sound Mental Health are lying about the death of Tiffany Rudis. They wanted me to feel vindicated that somebody from the Green Party had been taken out of the situation where they were using her to control me. They have Christian people there who have very serious medical health problems who were laughing about serving her some sort of breakfast. And while Barrett was talking about breakfast to Tiffany, so that goes down the DC Metroplex into Seattle by way of this case, which they kept me in the dark about. It's been a Truman Show, but of great importance to Trump. Somebody at the store next to the museum thief Shulman, which was frequented by the people who set up this war game with the help of administration, put Thump, which is part of Thompson, but it looked like Trump, during the rise of Trump for an attorney-looking woman who appeared to be representing Celine Dion, who came in. These people seemed to realize that Jeff Thompson, who was very vigorous and able, was in a family of my father's first wife who evidently participated in targeting me, possibly behind his back. So what we see is very complex rigging by Cyril Weck's favorites, the Jewish community, people like Schulman, to play that it's less sinister than it really is, while playing up that I'm more sinister than I really am, and they poisoned me in the mouth. Okay, so when she was off my back for some reason, I smiled, and they interpreted that as a gloat because that's their expertise. I'm sorry if she said. And I wonder what she did. But they're always talking about sacrifices, human sacrifices, and so on. They did the same thing with Gauls. Gauls trick psychology had people who were in the ACT UP community acting like a major blow had been taken in favor of the AIDS victims. She posed outside the World Trade Center on 911. And this was coming from the Czech community led by Václav Havel. So I captured this and I hurt my leg dancing. Of course, they came and rippered some girl and castrated me and said, you dog eyes this, dog eyes that. And it was Gaulis who was lashing out, by the way. She was herself involved in the AIDS attack and has manipulated things in Seattle to make it look like they're soothing the victims by putting on these little terroristic episodes. And they're always having these kinds of episodes. Who do we poison next? Who do we give skin creatures next? Moon Unit Zappa is one of their ringleaders. She's a terrible criminal sadist and psychotic. They just bumped off 3 Kennedys like it was nothing. So you have this situation where they're claiming that there's a race quid pro quo. They hit but one person who's white and then they hit one person who's black and they hit one. This is all a diversion for their arc concept. You see, it's not that white or black. I want the Green Party off my back. There's no question about that. But they want to manipulate it to make it look like, because they're a warlord who's making a monetarist claim. You notice that while they're killing people over a penny at Sound Mental Health, they've continued to bellow about representing the AIDS victims. Well, I walked to talk to a black barista 2 blocks away from Sound Mental Health. I covered it in Barista Gate, and I asked her if she knew that there was evidence that AIDS was man-made. She said no. Okay, this is dead center in this dude Aaron Dixon's, shtick. He's not telling these people because he's a shrewd investor. He set up the clinics while he was smooching with Gail Burstyn, is what I believe. The Green Party had it in for my father because people at WQED like Rob Proctor saw him as a white outsider from Iowa. I mean, what's this guy who fought in World War II, who was against the Vietnam War? I mean, the bigoted structure of the VA in Pennsylvania is highly illogical, but it doesn't matter if it works. They want the title. You see, like JB, which is like Joe Biden, the black kid who hangs out with the dude who knew Sean Brooks, who Cronenberger denies knowing. He denies he knew Fitz too. Fuss. But he slips, the legal documents so that I almost don't have them when I go to court. They want the title. One of the people who knew Andy Warhol back when he gave me his phone number was named Tuttle. She was visiting my house on Christmas, and she gave me Andy Warhol's number when those letters came. So he was a friend of Trump. So these letters probably come from Trump. And they're electing somebody who is implicated in the murder of the Kennedys, and not just JFK, but Cersei. Because that's what this strange chain gang, is linked up to by way of their own default system. So what you have to appreciate about some of this stuff, I think, is that the delusion that these people represent black people over white people, and that they're fighting white people, and that white people are getting even against them is all just that. It's a delusion. It's hocus pocus from South African Secret Service, Penis Gabriel, and Sir Paul McCartney. What they are doing is releasing viruses and building an ark of the strong. They want the strong to survive, okay? And they want anybody who even thinks that they're wrong, or thinks that they have civil rights, or thinks for themselves, to be prepared to take a bullet. And that's how they're operating. It's just like Nazi Germany in that way. And it's not different because we speak English. These people, King Tuttle, right? King Tut. These people hail from England. They were buddy with the Chancellor of Germany during the rise of the Third Reich. They just didn't want him to attack them. That's all. They wanted him to attack Russia. And they helped him escape. And it's all part of the Axis planning and the congenital Axis condition of the royal family. Now, in the United States of America, people are supposed to have the right to confront their accuser. These people misspell their names just a little bit and then attack somebody who has the name of your niece and kill them, so that you will get the hint about what they're saying you must do when it comes time to donating a little extra of money. You live below the poverty line, and they're electing somebody to represent them who won't tax anybody under $400,000. I wonder how much these people have in their piggy bank sometimes. Anyway, the point is there is nothing, absolutely nothing, about the letter to Leslie Katz, the Western Pennsylvania School for the Deaf, hasn't seen before. It was a crying fit from a desperately frightened, abandoned, battered, which is common in Pittsburgh, deaf person. And what did they do? They raped the girl who taught me sign language. They didn't want me to get out in any capacity. They refused to teach me sign language until she intervened when I was in my 30s. I had been deaf for 20 years. And the nurse who was supposed to be giving me trauma care smiled when I mentioned it. Because this Tiff Redis was being assigned the job by some real scoundrel industry working with Peter Anderson and those other motherfuckers in Seattle to bow out so they could make it look like I felt good about the revenge of Cersei. I didn't feel good about anything. They fucking poisoned me in the mouth.